They're alive. And this is funny. I'm wearing a, well, you're going to have to excuse me for a second. Oh! Okay, that's better. I'll close that up. So you at least see the kids in the background. Hey, everybody, I'm KJ Green, your man in the Hoodwood. And if my camera can sit up halfway right, we'll do the show tonight. Anyway, Snuffy's asleep. You can see he's knocked out on the couch. I'm talking about a stuffed animal, ladies and gentlemen. But it's March 12th. I normally do my show and put it out on Saturday, but a little small thing happened. I got COVID. So things have been behind all week. I've been sick most of the week, but I'm feeling better. I appreciate those who knew me, know about me being sick. Appreciate the kind words on Facebook and on the Facebook site. I am getting better. I never lost my taste or anything. I just get this weird metallic taste in the back of my mouth. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about the NCAA tournament. The selection field was announced at about 6 Eastern on Sunday, and then there were 68. And of course, my beloved Bearcats are not among the chosen ones. They did make the NIT, which I'm very happy about. Given the turmoil of the season, I figure at least one more postseason game would be a good thing for my beloved Bearcats. But the big money is starting Tuesday in Dayton with the first four games. 8 teams playing, 2 games on Tuesday. Actually, 4 games. Yeah, first 4 games. 8 teams playing, 2 games on Tuesday night, 2 games on Wednesday night. And the 16 seeds, congratulations. You get to go to Birmingham to get executed by Alabama. And the other 16 seed, if I can get my energy. Now, this show isn't going to be the slickly produced with the graphics and everything like that. I might do that post. But right now, it's live, and basically I'm doing it off the cuff. So there's a lot of things going to seem a little ragged. You're going to have to excuse me on that thing. You can barely see my hat. If I pull my hat down, you can barely see my face. So it's going to be, like I said, kind of improvisational, kind of, I call these kind of jazz, not jazz my daughter, but jazz type of riffs, kind of playing off the cuff. Anyway, like I said, the 16 seeds, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and Southeast Missouri State playing at 6:40 on Tuesday. And Texas Southern and Fairleigh Dickinson playing at 6:40 on Wednesday. The winners of those games, the Texas Southern Fairleigh Dickinson game, they get to go to where is it that they're playing that game at? That game is in Columbus, not too far from. So they at least, you win your game in Dayton, you get to go about 65 miles to the east, north and east. I made that drive a few times myself. Going from Dayton to Columbus to get executed by number 1 Purdue. And then you have the other 2 teams, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and Southeast Missouri State. The winner of that game gets to go to Birmingham to face number 1 Alabama to get executed by them. Now, a 16 team has beaten the number 1 team once. One time, where Maryland-Baltimore County routed number 1 Virginia 71-54 in the 2019 tournament. Not being part of the 2018 tournament. And then the next year, Virginia wins the national title, kind of unexpectedly. Not a lot of people expected them to win the national title so soon after such a humiliating loss. It was a great bounce-back win. But the odds are very long against a 16 team winning their first round game. Now, looking at some of these matchups, I mean, there are some pretty decent first round matchups. Tournament starting on Thursday. The first games is the 8-9 game between Maryland and West Virginia. That game also being played in Columbus. That's going to be a rock fight game. You can just see both of those teams battling it out defensive wise. A lot of people didn't think West Virginia was even going to get in the tournament. I didn't. I had them on the outside looking in. But at 19-14, Bob Huggins' crew are dancing in March. Yes, but I think Maryland's going to win this game. I like West Virginia. I'm always going to have a soft spot for Bob Huggins, but I think Maryland has enough tools to be able to pull that game out. Going on down the line, I'm just going to go right down the line of the brackets of the first round games here. We may talk about that later in the week when the next week's show comes out. But by the time, the one thing I don't like about with the tournament is it's such a fast turnaround. Half the field's going to be gone by Friday evening. The field is cut in by 3/4 by Sunday night. So this time next week, there won't be 68 teams. There'll be 16. Quickly. I mean, there's no time for slack. And it's going to be interesting to see what teams are able to, and like I said, it's such a fast turnaround. Now, 5-12 matchups are always, and when I say always loaded, brother, they're always loaded. The 5-12 in the South region, San Diego State Aztecs taking on Charleston. That game being in Orlando. Now, if you've known how I pick football games, I'm always extremely hesitant to take on a West Coast team going east. You know what would help also is if I start the recording that way. Now, again, I'm doing this kind of raw on the fly. So if you listen to this on my podcast, the podcast on like a lot of podcast providers, it'll probably just start. Don't need the clicking in my ear, but that's neither here nor there. Like I said, this is the Hoodwood post-selection show. I've already said that I'm picking Maryland over West Virginia and that the number one seeds, Alabama and Purdue, will make short work of their 16 seeds that they're facing in the first round in Columbus for Purdue and Alabama and Birmingham for Alabama, respectively. And that being said, I am right now looking at the South region. We'll start with the South region. Again, I said Alabama should make short work of whoever they face in that round of the first round. And I'm going to say Southeast Missouri State. I'll pick them to win. Okay. And then in the East region, where Purdue awaits the Texas Southern Fairleigh Dickinson winner, I will pick Texas Southern to win that game, only to lose to Purdue on St. Patty's Day I think that game's in Columbus. Yeah, that game's in Columbus as well. So, moving right along, like I said, we're going to go back to the bracket. The 5-12 game, that's San Diego State against Charleston. Now, that is an upset just waiting to happen. The 5-12 games are trap games. I've always said that. I mean, even my beloved Bearcats, I was suspicious in 2013. Oh, they got a 5 seed. Oh, wow. They got a 5 seed. Good God. Who do they play? Harvard. Who do they lose to? Harvard. So 5-12 matchups are notorious for their upsets. I don't think this is going to be a change here, even though I do like Brian Dutcher. I think he's a hell of a coach. Me being born in San Diego, I have a little bit of a soft spot for the Aztecs, but a West Coast team coming all the way across country to face an East Coast team, that's going to be an upset that Charleston's going to knock off San Diego State, move on. The 4-13 game is Virginia Furman. That game, I believe, that game's in Orlando as well. So that's going to be the first game of the day in Orlando. 12:40 tip-off at the Amway Center, where the Orlando Magic play at. I think Virginia should move on against the Paladins. The 6-11 game, that's a 4:00 game. Creighton versus NC State. That game in Denver. That's also in the South region, but they have the different cities have different regions, which is weird because it's like you can have a team like this is a 6-11 game, which is in Denver, but it's in the South region. But then you have let me see if I can find one here. No, Xavier and Kennesaw State. That's not out west. That's in Greensboro. Let me see if I can find one thing to give another example of a game that's out west. Kentucky and no, that's in Greensboro too. Doggone it. Well, excuse me for the yawn. Usually I don't yawn during my show. My show's not that boring. Oh, geez. And looking at all these different cities of who's playing where, and it's like, oh yeah, by the way. Okay, you have the game. There's one game in there's a game, but that's in West Region game, which is in Albany. But then there's a South Region game, it's in Denver. But then there's other South Region games. No, I don't think that one. No, that's in Columbus has 2 or 3 different regions playing through their city in Columbus. Nationwide Arena is going to have all day on the 16th and 18th, I believe it is. So, but anyway, let's get back to the picks. I've gone on a too long of a tangent here. Baylor versus Cal Santa Barbara. Baylor is an extremely tough team out of the Big 12. I don't think they should have any real problem. The 7-10 game in that region is going to be fascinating. Missouri and Utah State. I think Missouri was seated way too low to have gotten to the SEC final. I beg your pardon, SEC semis. I think they got seated too low. Utah State is a sleeper out the Big West. No, I beg your pardon. Utah State's out the whack. Utah State's out of the. I believe Utah State's out the whack, but I'm not sure. I mean, you're trying to quote names and states off the top of your head. Utah State is they're the Mountain West. Haha. MWC. I was wrong all the way around. I was thinking the Big West, then I was thinking the WAC. No, it's the Mountain West. Anyway, let me jump back in here to the lower part of that. Now, don't think Arizona won't have a hard time with Princeton. There's always something about the Tigers that are always just a headache for every team. Arizona will move on, but I think that they're I think that Arizona will have a hard time with the Tigers. Now, rolling down that bracket, of course, we already talked about Purdue. We think that they're going to move on without any real trouble. Memphis and Florida Atlantic is an absolute mind scrambler of a game. Memphis, the American champions, that they handily dispatched Houston, even though 75-65, the game was not that close. Houston just, after losing Sasser, they pretty much were discombobulated. And I still think that my Bearcats should have beaten them. But again, neither here nor there. 5-12 game, Duke Oral Roberts. Duke shouldn't have any real problems until they get into probably the Sweet 16. Oral Roberts, while good, solid team, not going to be the real trouble for Duke. Tennessee, Louisiana is a team I almost guarantee is going to be an upset. The Volunteers are the most consistently inconsistent team in the country. And facing the Raging Cajuns, that's an upset alert. Move down the bracket, 6-11 game, UK versus Providence. Do not sleep on an Ed Cooley coach team. I'm telling you now, you heard it live from me. Do not sleep on this Providence team. I have the feeling that UK, with their inconsistencies, the way they play good 1 minute and bad the next, they're going to come out flat. And Providence is going to beat them. And I'm not saying that because I don't like Kentucky. No, it's not I don't like Kentucky. I can't stand Kentucky. I can't stand Calipari. Yes, Kentucky's a blue blood. Yes, Kentucky has a pedigree. But Kentucky plays selfish. They played selfish all year. And I think a team-oriented squad like the Friars are just the type of team that will give Kentucky trouble. I think Providence wins here. Kansas State and Montana State, I think Kansas State's seated a little too high, but I think they're good enough to get this win here. And you want to talk about somebody, there's always a team that gets in the tournament just because, you can't have a tournament without. They're always going to say you can't have a tournament without Kentucky or Michigan State or North Carolina. North Carolina didn't make the tournament. They didn't make any tournament. They weren't invited. They didn't get the NCAA tournament. They turned down the invite to NIT. Bye. UK, dawdled enough. They went on a bit of a run, and they got the invite. They got it at large. Michigan State has no business being in this tournament, even as a 7 seed. But they're in the tournament, and they're playing USC, another just consistently inconsistent team. Who wins? Flip a coin. I'll give it to Michigan State only because the referees are going to love Izzo, and they're not going to give Andy Enfield any kind of breaks here. Bottom of the bracket is Marquette and Vermont. I wish Vermont had somebody else because I love the Catamounts. Catamounts are always a plucky team. They're always there. With Marquette, coached by Shaka, are just way, way too strong. That's a team that could make a lot of noise and could win 3 or 4 games down the stretch and make a deep run at the tournament. I think Marquette does really good here. Let's go on the other side of the bracket, shall we? Midwest, number 1 team. They're not the number 1 team overall. Number 1 team overall was Alabama, the first team we talked about. Houston playing Northern Kentucky. I love the Norse. They're a tough team out of the Horizon. They're a lovable team. They're a scrappy team. They have 0 chance in Birmingham against Houston. I'm sorry. Even with Sasser down, I should say his status being unknown, Houston is just way, 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 way too fast, too strong, too powerful on the boards. They are so aggressive on the boards. I can't stand Kelvin Sampson. I think he's a reprobate. I think he's fake. But that team as a whole, as a collective, is just dangerous. They are too nice. And a team like that is properly motivated, I don't care if they lost to Memphis. I think that they're just like, you know what? Let's just rest up everybody for the tournament and get cracking. The real games for them start on Thursday. And that's what it is. I think they beat Northern Kentucky without even really thinking about it. 8-9 game in this region, Iowa and Auburn. That is going to be an absolute fascinating game. The Hawkeyes can run. The Hawkeyes score points. The Hawkeyes play a really, really crisp, up-tempo game. Auburn wants to grind you. Auburn is your boiler pot SEC team. They grind. They're going, and whatever team can impose their will, the team is going to win. My pick here is Iowa. I think they can knock Auburn off. That now an Iowa Houston game in the same round, that'll be an interesting game to watch. That would be a very interesting game to watch. I would like to watch that. 5-12 game in that region, Miami and Drake. Miami under Jim Larinaga, always a good solid squad. I think they should have enough on point on the ball to knock off the Missouri Valley champs and move on. Indiana and Kent State, I can't put my finger on Indiana. Indiana plays good enough to win big games, but they also play a little skittish. And playing skittish is not really good when you're dealing with a team like Kent State, a MAC team that's won 28 games. This could be an upset. I don't think it will be, but it could be. I think Indiana moves on. Iowa State is in the 6-11 slot. Iowa State is in the 6-11 slot, and they are slated to play, I believe it's the West. That's the Midwest region. So they will play the winner of the Mississippi State Pitt game. Now, I think Pitt can win. And I think Pitt can beat Mississippi State. They get to that next round playing Iowa State. I think they're gritty and gutty enough to knock off Iowa State as well. Interesting game. I believe that game is in. That game's in Greensboro. So I can't say like any real distinct advantage here, though. Pitt is used to being in the ACC country, so that's an ACC type venue. Next you have Xavier versus Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State, who got a fat dap from me a couple of weeks ago from going from a 1-win team 4 years ago to making the NCAA tournament. Xavier's a tough squad, even though they did get eviscerated. Woo! They got eviscerated by Marquette in the Big East tournament final. But they are a tough squad, very efficient. Sean Miller, in his return to Xavier, he coached there for a while, left for Arizona, came back after getting in trouble in Arizona. Oh, we won't talk about that. But Xavier's got a good squad. I think they should be able to knock off Kennesaw State. And I think they'll face Pitt. Now, that'll be an interesting game. Pitt, already having 2 wins under its belt, facing a coach that was an alumni of Pittsburgh. Sean Miller being a Pittsburgh guy. 7-10 game was Texas A&M versus Penn State. Texas A&M should not be this low. Texas A&M is not a 7 seed. And Penn State, I think that somebody was praying for them fools because I don't think they were good enough to get in the tournament, but they're getting here as a 10 seed. But I do think Texas A&M should knock them off easily. The 2-15 game is Texas Colgate. Now, that game isn't so much the big one. I think Texas handles Colgate without real problem. Then they play Texas A&M, a team that they will be facing on the regular in a couple of years. They will then be conference foes. Right now, Texas is the Big 12. Texas A&M is SEC. But these teams used to be in the same conference. That's going to be a very, very, very nasty game because these two teams don't like one another. The game being played in Des Moines, Texas and Texas A&M playing in Iowa. Interesting game. Let's move out to the West region, shall we? Of course, Kansas, Bill Self not being able to coach the Jayhawks the last couple of games, having been hospitalized, but he should be back in time enough to face Howard. Howard, you gotta love them. They've been in the first NCAA tournament appearance since 1992. but they will be quick cannon fodder for Kansas. 8-9 game. Now, this is a good game. Arkansas and Illinois. Now, both of these teams, middle of the pack of their conferences. This game will be close for both teams, being in Des Moines, close enough for Arkansas, close enough for Illinois. This is going to be an interesting squad, an interesting matchup. Now, the 5-12 game, now you're going to talk about another 12-seeded team that could be dangerous, is VCU taking on St. Mary's. St. Mary's runner-up in the WCC. That's a good team, but that's ripe for a knock. They're ripe for an upset. I think VCU might be able to catch it. Now, your 4-13 game, oh boy, two coaches that I can't stand are playing each other. Well, they're not playing each other. They're coaching against one another. UConn, coached by Danny Hurley, the imitable crying and whining Danny Hurley, facing the champions, the MAC, not the MAC, the MAC, MAAC, Mid-Atlantic, Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. The winner of that school, the winner of that conference, the Iona Gales. Their coach, Rick Pitino, whom I'm almost guaranteed the minute that Iona loses to UConn, and they will lose to UConn, you will see in the next few days the new head coach for the St. John Red Storm, Rick Pitino. He can't help himself. He cannot help himself. He'll be in St. John's before the end of the month. Book it. UConn beats Iona, by the way, and I think they beat whoever comes out of the St. Mary VCU game, which I think is going to be VCU. And you're going to start hearing talk about is Danny Hurley the next great coach made in the mold of that other criminal, Jim Calhoun. I can't stand UConn. Haven't been able to stand him for a long time. Anyway, the 6 seed TCU will take on the winner of the Arizona State Nevada game. Now, that's another fascinating game. I think Arizona State can beat Nevada. I think they can beat TCU. Oh, no. Who's the coach of Arizona State? Danny Hurley. Oh, boy. The 3-14 game is Gonzaga versus Grand Canyon. Now, I didn't even know Grand Canyon had a basketball team to just a couple years ago. And now they're in the NCAA tournament. Drove past Grand Canyon University a couple times when I was out in Arizona last year. Again, neither here nor there, but I just think it's kind of funny. Gonzaga should win without any problem. I don't think Gonzaga is going to really be challenged until they get to the Sweet 16. Well, they should. Now, we'll get to that here. I think they should face UCLA. Northwestern school outside Chicago, plays Boise State. I think they should be able to get the win there. UCLA won't have a real tough game until they get against Gonzaga. And I think Gonzaga knocks Mick Cronin's guys off. Hate saying that because I like seeing Cronin do good at UCLA. And there you have it. The first and second rounds, kind of the NCAA tournament. These two teams, there are 68 teams in the field. Realistically, I can only see there's only about maybe 6 or 7 teams that have a realistic chance of getting to Houston and winning it. One of them being Houston. But I also think you're going to put in the teams that I think have the best chance of getting to Houston. I think Houston, UCLA, Gonzaga, which UCLA and Gonzaga have to play one another, so that's something's got to give there. Kansas, I think Kansas still has enough chops to get through a fairly weak Western region. I think the East is Purdue's to lose, though Purdue has never been to a. I think they've been to one Final Four. think Joe Barry Carroll and them did one back in the late 70s, early 80s, I believe. But the South really doesn't have any real tough teams in it other than Alabama. I think that's theirs to lose. Houston shouldn't have a problem until they get to probably crossing Texas. And Texas has been playing lights out pretty much the last 6 weeks. And there you have it. I think I've given you about 25, 30 minutes of craziness on my podcast. Normally, I do this on YouTube once a week. I riff on all things sports here and there. I'm going to reserve the fat, dap, and head slap and everything to the next show because I do have a little extra to say about that umpire that just blew that call. But we'll talk about that next week. We'll talk about a few other things. But like I said, Sports from the Hoodwood is on YouTube, usually every week. And it's on many great podcast performers. Lord, I cannot talk tonight. Many fine podcast platforms and providers. If Hoodwood isn't on your favorite, ask for it. I will try to get it on there as quickly as possible. But I am also, in addition to YouTube, I'm on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, you name it, I'm probably there. And if I'm not, ask for it. I'll try to get it on there as well. So we will, or I should say, I will talk to you as soon as possible. Hopefully I'll be feeling a lot better. Well, I feel fine now. It's just getting over COVID is just a pain in the butt. But again, I appreciate the well wishes and the greetings and salutations sent for me to get better. So until next time, fellow sports fans, I'm KJ Green, 30. And transmission, the right one. I'm out of here, folks. Take care. Oh, it didn't stream.